I'm Papanoy, and once again we're back with another channel, another episode of Bourbon with a taste of military history. Today we're going to talk about an American whiskey with an American story, and a rather new whiskey, just been out a few years, but I was able to meet the man behind it. He explained some things to me about it during the meeting, and I decided that this would be a great way to review a new whiskey for you guys out there. Also, since we're on an American theme, we'll go ahead and review a battle that happened here in Arkansas. The Battle of Brownsville happened August 25th, 1863. We'll go over that. It happened out in a community outside the town of Lonoke, which is located in the central part of the state. We'll talk about that pivotal battle where the Union was moving into Arkansas to take over the state after 4th of July of 1863. And then, since we're on that same American theme, let's talk about, we'll review a book about the Battle of Bull Run, first major battle of the Civil War, and how that affected everything and how it led to the disaster which was the American Civil War. So, let's get right into it. Let's talk about the whiskey. So, on Facebook, I got an invitation to a whiskey tasting at a liquor store here in Little Rock, Colonial Wine Spirits. And that John Rich from the band Big and Rich was there talking about his new whiskey, Redneck Riviera, and was offering it for sale. So as soon as I got off my job, I went straight down there and got to meet them, and got to meet John Rich right away. Walked in the door, the gentleman, he met me at the door, like he was waiting on me, and he just shook my hand, and we talked for a few minutes, and I said, I'm here for your whiskey. So, well, come on, dude, let's go back there, and let's have a drink and talk about it. So he took me back to where the tasting was going, explained some things to me about the whiskey and how it came about, and we drank a little bit. Really nice guy. Took time out from his day to visit with just another guy, and it wasn't just because it was me. It was because he was doing it with everybody that walked through the door. So a genuine, nice person, somebody who's thrilled about his product with his name on it, not like some that you'll see out there that throw their name on a product and then you never see them or they never talk about it. He really wants to talk about this. And the reason that, he does part of this, there's a feel-good story, an American story, behind why he does Redneck Riviera and what he does with the proceeds, some of the proceeds from it. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about the last episode that aired. Thank you for all your comments. They were excellent, and I've taken a lot of them into account. So the first one, the major one, was that it was too long. Well, for a person that loves to hear himself talk, it can never be too long. But I did hear you, and I'm going to limit these from now on to 25 minutes or less. So as you can see, I actually have a stopwatch going on my phone to let me know where I'm at, and I'll speed these things up. It's kind of ironic. I was recently up in Upper Michigan on a snowmobile trip, and I went to my old university, and they featured me as an alum on a episode of what they called Finlandia Fridays. The host was on his iPad, and he had prepared questions that he was looking at the iPad. But on the right side of the iPad was a timer. And before the started, I asked him about that, and he said that he has a tendency to talk long, and he tries to limit his episodes to 11 minutes or less. So he constantly looks at the clock or glances at it to enable them to stay within his timeline. So I'm going to do the same thing for my viewers. One of the other things we talked about was how dark it was. I hope that it's not as dark this time. We went out and purchased some lights for the studio, and we have artificial light besides the backlighting that I have. And hopefully now it's bright enough for you to see everything that you need to see, and it doesn't have that dark thing. The one thing that we haven't done yet is we haven't gone and got an external mic. We had a little bit of argument with the technical crew. We had some talks with the financier, my wife, and we decided that we will try one more episode with the way we're doing it right now. And if it still doesn't work out correctly with the mic, we'll go ahead and buy an external mic and set that up. I've seen several people's studios since then. They all have an external mic, and I think that they like it. I hope you're entertained by my animals that are around me. My dog and cat really like to be around when I'm around. And since I've been gone for a week, they're kind of hanging with me. and if for some reason or other they're playing below my feet. So you probably see them running in and out during the episode, which is an okay thing. So, Redneck Riviera, American whiskey by John Rich. Now, one of the things, of course, that we talk about with whiskey and bourbon is bourbon, and whiskey normally comes from a blend of things, several different types. And John Rich had pointed that out to me and stated that he really looked and tasted over 200 combinations of different whiskeys from around the country until he found the 4 that he liked. And they're from actually four different states. Now the whiskey is actually distilled out in Oregon, but it has a flavor from around the country. And he finally settled on that, and he really likes what he has. Another thing that he likes to talk about is the price point. When he was distilling this, and when they came up with the final product, his distiller said, this is a really good tasting whiskey. He says, I think we can sell this in the $40 to $50 price point. And John Rich says, hold on, no way, we are not doing that. This is Redneck Riviera. This is for the common people, and I need it to be priced at $24.99. So that's what it's priced at, $24.99. Another cool thing about this, and we'll talk about this more in a minute, is that he donates 10% to a charity called Folds of Honor. And we'll talk about Folds of Honor here in a little bit, but being a retired Army man myself and a combat veteran, Folds of Honor has a very special place in my heart too. And so we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So, Redneck Riviera. Everybody knows where the Redneck Riviera is. Panama City, Florida, west to Texas. Been down there many times on the at Gulf Shores myself, and still go to the beach all the time, and love it down there with the sugar sand beaches, nice warm Gulf water, the wonderful people down there. They're always so nice. And if you have never been down there to the Panhandle of Florida, Alabama, Gulf Coast, Mississippi, Texas, you need to go, because people down there love to have you. And I think that you'll find no better beaches in the world than there. They have that sugar white sand that is just so fine. It's just like snow, but it's not. And then the water so clear. I mean, you could be out 20 feet and it looks like you're only in a foot of water because it's crystal clear, emerald green sometimes, and it's so warm. Just makes me want to go back to the beach right now, and wish it wasn't February and I could go swimming right now. So let's pour this bad boy and see what we get here. Now it comes in at 80 proof. And another thing I wanted to point out too was that everything you see here, made in America. Bottles made in America, the cork, the synthetic cork made in America, the tops, the wood for it, everything comes from America. Unlike other brands who are the glass is shipped in from overseas, they've decided they need to go ahead and stick with American glass. Really good idea. So let's check this out here now and see what we've got. I like the color. I really do like the color. If you notice the color there, it's kind of caramely looking, not too dark and not too light. Kind of right in the middle where you want it at, in my opinion. So, I mean, I like that right off the bat that we're looking at a whiskey that has a great color to it. I mean, it bodes well for what's going to come. Let's try it out and see what we got here. So let's put it to the nose and see what we have. Oh yeah, you can smell the vanilla right off the bat. There's something else there. Maybe some butterscotch I'm smelling, a little caramel, but there's something. I'm not a honey person, but I think it's honey. Yeah, I mean, holy cow, it kind of brings you right in. Nice, smooth smell, refreshing. You want to drink it, just from smelling it. Let's take a taste and see what we got. Ooh, ooh. Hey guys, settle down there. Hey, smooth. Almost too smooth. But wait a minute, hold on. I'm feeling something else. I got an initial taste. No bite like a high-end bourbon that may be higher than 100 proof or something like that. Just a little taste. I'm still tasting it, but what's neat is I'm feeling it going down right now. I'm getting that what we call a bourbon hug. Feels pretty damn good. man, that's not bad at all. This is stuff I think that you could go ahead and drink straight. No ice, no water, nothing. And just get hammered on it, I think, if you wanted to, if you weren't careful. That's pretty smooth stuff. I think let's take another taste and see how it tastes now after having one taste on it. Okay, not as much entrance, but I'm feeling the finish going down inside and giving me that warm, what we call bourbon hug. I think we could call this a whiskey hug now. Wouldn't be wrong saying that, because that's what I'm feeling. I feel like it's enveloped me in its arms, and it's surrounding me and hugging me and making me warm, and I think that's kind of what you want in your whiskey. So, a little bit more about it. We'll look here at on his website, Redneck Riviera website, and I'll of course post that to my site, so you can go to his site and look at that. He says here on the finish, which we just talked about, that hug. He said the result is a masterful blend of two premium whiskeys, one bringing the sweetness of grains and malt with an oak barrel finish. The other a smooth whiskey that tastes like the caramel corn you enjoyed at the state fair as a kid. Both whiskeys spent just the right amount of time aging. Combination of mash bills consists of Midwest corn, a little malt, a little rye. It makes a darn, or he says, damn, fine spirit that's good enough to shoot, sip, or mix. And I think that he is 100% correct with that. That is definitely something that you could shoot. If we had a little shooter glass here, we might go ahead and try and show you that. But I think I'm just going to sip this a little bit here. Good stuff, good stuff. Okay, so let's try Clem style. As you know from the last episode when we talked, Clem likes his on ice. So let's take it from the fancy Glengarry glass that we have, that you can buy at Amazon from It's Whiskey Night, their website, and which is really good for tasting. Let's pour it over a little ice. Let's give it a second. Let that ice kind of get with it and see what we get. You notice I love these glasses. This glass, my son bought me this for Christmas. I really love these tumblers. Nice, thick glass, heavy. Kind of feels like something like a man drink. You're sitting there just holding this really heavy glass. I don't smoke, but if I did, I'd have me a big old cigar right now, just sitting back saying, yeah, this is good stuff. All right, let's see. The ice should have taken the desired effect. Let's see if we get a different taste now. Oh, crap, yeah. Completely different taste. Whoa, that's weird. I'm not so sure ice is the best move here. Did not get the taste coming in like I did before with just the straight. And I'm not getting the hug that I got earlier. That's weird. I can't describe the taste. It's completely 180-degree difference from what I tried earlier. I'm thinking, this is just me right off the top of my head saying this, that this should not be sipped with ice. That this is something that you just put in a glass and drink neat. On its own, room temperature. Holy cow, yeah. It had such a much better flavor. You could taste the different things that were going on. You got that hug going down. You don't get it with the ice. You definitely don't want to put any water in it. Man, that's not bad. I think that when we finish this, we're going to it straight, and we'll enjoy that. So, Folds of Honor. Folds of Honor is a charity that was developed to pay college scholarships, to pay the tuition, the room and board, and all the expenses for the children of servicemen going to college that were killed in combat. And John was telling me that 10% from every bottle sold, and now it's in 42 states, by the way, Costco's, all those big stores, goes to Folds of Honor. And since they've been doing this, they have been able to fund 48 service members' children through college. I mean, that's incredible. There's nothing better than going to a store and buying something and knowing that a portion of that is going to something as honorable as Folds of Honor. It's been around since 2007, so it's a great charity. I'm going to link Folds of Honor's website to my page. If you get an opportunity, if you don't go out and buy John and Rich's whiskey, then send them a donation. Let's continue to honor those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us. I know that that I think of those guys and those women every day that did the ultimate and died for our country. So go to foldsofhonor.org and look at their site. All right, what we wanted to talk about with the military part of it, the military history part of this, was a battle that happened in August 25th, 1863 in a town called Brownsville, Arkansas. Now, this came at a pivotal time. I mean, you may not realize that July 4th of 1863 was a huge turning point in the American Civil War. The Confederate States of America suffered 3 devastating losses on the same day. They lost at Gettysburg, the siege at Vicksburg ended, and they also lost a pivotal battle in Helena, Arkansas, where troops from Arkansas tried to take over Helena, so they thought and hoped that it would cause the Union to take troops away from Vicksburg and rush to Helena, and that they would give some relief to the people at Vicksburg. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. It was a huge loss and crippled Arkansas soldier-wise because of the huge loss that they took at Helena. So right after the siege was won at Vicksburg, General Ulysses Grant, the commander, decided that he needed to move on other states, and that he knew Arkansas was ripe for picking because of the loss of the soldiers at Helena. He also knew that he had a surplus of soldiers, both cavalry, artillery, and infantry, to free up, and they had to have something to do. Now, he did have a plan for Sherman on the east side of the Mississippi, but he wanted to also continue to fight on the west side of the Mississippi and dominate in the Mississippi River entirely, so that they could cut off the Confederacy and the supplies that were coming up the Mississippi River. So he moved troops over to Helena and Memphis, and he also tasked the cavalry in northwest Arkansas under John Davidson to meet up with them at Des Arc, Arkansas, and go after this capital city, Little Rock. Now we're looking at about 27,000 to 30,000 Union forces moving on Arkansas. So they went ahead and got together and made the plan and started moving. Well, one of the side stories that people don't realize in this is that when they got to Des Arc on the White River, they had Union gunboats up that far. I mean, a lot of people don't even realize this. They sent these Union gunboats all the way up to the Red River and all that to see what the Confederates doing, and were able to stop any kind of relief that the Confederates might mount from that way because of the gunboats. I think it's a little great side story, and you can read it in my article that I had published in the Arkansas Military History Journal, and I'm going to link the website to the museum, which I'm a board member of, and you can read my story in its entirety. And look for in the future my book on the battle, which will come out soon, I hope, and you'll be able to read in the whole story in its entirety. Well, the Union troops moved slowly through Arkansas, realizing, of course, we're in August, and in Arkansas in August, it is dang hot. It's actually miserable if you really want to know the truth. It's very humid, and and back then they were wearing those woolen uniforms, and it just had to be bad. Mosquitoes were terrible. They were going through the swamps, so they were losing a lot of soldiers to sickness. But the cavalry was not that bad off. They had been there already. They were used to it, and they actually led the attack. Brownsville, Arkansas was developed as a railroad stop community along in Arkansas, and it was also part of the military highway, which was built back in the early 1800s to ferry soldiers, troops. The Trail of Tears is on here, and Brownsville grew as a community. And in fact, it grew so rapidly that at the time of the battle, Brownsville was actually the fourth largest community in the state of Arkansas, close to 4,000 inhabitants. Kind of large city for 1863. They had a blacksmith, doctors, lawyers, taverns, hotels. They had everything. The funny thing about it is now is that the railroad bypassed Brownsville, decided that about 5 miles south of there, Lone Oak was developed, and that it was a better place for the railroad to go through. As a result of that, everybody picked up lock, stock, and barrel and moved Brownsville into Lone Oak. Brownsville no longer exists. I mean, there is a way to get there, and you can see it. The cemetery's still there, and that was there actually during the Civil War. And you can see remnants of the military highway that cut through there. Well, on that day, Davison decided to run his cavalry first before the infantry, so he sent them out ahead, and they actually ran into Confederate pickets about 1.5 miles east of Brownsville. They were able to spread those pickets out pretty quickly, cause them to flee back toward the town, and actually capture some of them. Confederates, though, weren't giving up that easily. General Walker had told General Marmaduke, who was at Brownsville, that basically what he wanted him to do was to do a delaying tactic. He wanted them to delay the Union forces as much as possible to give the city of Little Rock and the Confederate Army a better opportunity to shore up their defenses. So there was never supposed to be a large fought battle at Brownsville. So we had about 2,000 Confederates there, and I'm going against 9,000 cavalry. Well, it didn't last that long. The cavalry was able to move the people out of Brownsville pretty quick and move further down the road, had another skirmish at a place called Baker's Farm, moved further down, had another battle in at Reed's Bridge. So the casualties were light, probably less than 10 total, very few wounded, decisive Union victory, but it was never supposed to be a battle anyway. The Confederates did exactly what they wanted to do. They slowed the Union Army down long enough for the Confederate Army to develop their defenses at Reed's Bridge, and there'd be a much more fever-pitched battle at Reed's Bridge the next day as the Confederates contested that crossing there on the river to the Union troops. So go to the military National Guard, Arkansas National Guard military website, download a copy of this. It's PDF, no problem, easy stuff, and read the entire battle. Great maps, pictures, everything you need. Wanted to talk about the Battle of Bull Run a little bit. It's the book on the Battle of Bull Run, written by William C. Davis. It's a history of the first major campaign of the Civil War. It's a great book. It's about the twilight of Americans' innocence. You need to understand, the Battle of Bull Run, the Union Army was so confident that this was going to be over so quickly. People from Washington, D.C. got in carriages and packed picnic lunches and went out there to watch it. It was a complete disaster for the Union. Confederates pretty much took the ground and did what they can. So this is published by Louisiana State University Press. William Davis is the author of Breckinridge, Statesman, Soldier, Symbol, The Battle of New Market, Duel Between the First Ironclads, and the Orphan Brigade, all published under the LSU Press. I'll have a link to LSU Press and to this book and to Mr. Davis on my site. So, I think that we had a good episode. If there's anything that you would like for me to do more, if there's something I'm doing incorrectly, or if there's a battle or a piece of military history you want me to review, to study, I'll be glad to do it. If there's a bourbon that you want, I'll be glad to do that. And speaking of bourbon, I just got back from a trip Upper Michigan snowmobiling, and I bought about 15 to 20 different small batch bourbons that were locally distilled in Kansas, Iowa, and Minnesota. Maybe some other states, I just haven't really looked that way. And we're going to continue to go after the small ones. We're not going to talk about the big bourbons. We're going to talk about these small distilleries that are out there doing great things that don't get all the necessary press. So hey, once again, thank you for joining me. Keep drinking bourbon. Like my page, subscribe to my page, my YouTube channel, and I'll continue to do these and we'll have a great time. So until next time, Clem Papineau saying goodbye. Keep drinking bourbon.